All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something pretty fascinating.
Okay.
It's China's ambition in EUV lithography.
EUV.
Extreme Ultraviolet lithography.
Right.
This is like the bleeding edge tech for making the most advanced chips out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you hear about this, the immediate thought is like, oh, China's way behind.
Right,
But is
yeah.
that the whole picture?
Right.
I mean, looking at the sources you gave me, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's a common misconception.
So our mission today is to get beyond this simple narrative of China being behind and really try to grasp the nuances of where they're at.
Totally.
We're going to be focusing on their actual technical capabilities versus, these massive hurdles they face like intellectual property rights and the global political landscape.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think one of the most interesting takeaways from the stuff we've been looking at is that China might not be as clueless about EUV as a lot of people think.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they may not be mass producing these super complex machines like ASML in the Netherlands.
Right, ASML.
But the sources suggest that there's a pretty good understanding of the tech within China.
Interesting.
Especially in areas like precision optics and, advanced material science.
Right.
And those are crucial for EUV.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's incredibly precise equipment.
Oh, totally.
And, one piece of evidence that really jumps out is their progress in DUV lithography.
Deep ultraviolet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, DUV uses a longer wavelength of light than EUV, so you can't get those superfine features that you need for the most advanced chips.
Right.
But the fact that they're making these sophisticated DUV machines,
Right.
it tells you they've got a real solid industrial and technical base to build on.
Totally. Yeah, it's not like they're starting from scratch.
Not at all.
And what I find really interesting is how much progress they've made on specific components for EUV.
Like what?
Well, we're seeing Chinese research institutions and companies making strides in areas like laser light sources, the heart of the system, and complex optical systems that are needed to focus and direct the light.
So they're strategically targeting their research and development.
Exactly. It seems like they've identified the key bottlenecks,
Okay.
and they're pouring resources into those areas. And I think it shifts the question from can they do it to at what cost?
Okay, so that brings up a really important point.
Yeah.
It sounds like the biggest obstacle isn't necessarily their technical know-how,
Right.
but something else.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
What is it?
Intellectual property.
Ah, patents.
Exactly. ASML, they hold a massive portfolio of patents that protect their EUV technology.
Right.
And this isn't just, a minor speed bump.
Yeah.
This is like a huge legal and economic wall they've built up.
So what happens if China just says, okay, we're going to ignore those patents and just build the machines anyway?
Well, you can bet ASML would immediately file injunctions in every major market.
Oh, wow.
Potentially halting the production and sales of any chip made using unlicensed EUV technology.
Wow, that's serious.
Yeah. And on top of that, any products using those chips could face import bans in countries that recognize those ASML patents.
Right.
You're talking about potential trade wars.
Yeah.
And basically being locked out of huge global markets.
I see. So there are really severe consequences.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's a pretty bleak picture.
It is.
But does China have any leverage in this situation at all?
Well, if you look at the bigger picture, you've got this immense and constantly growing global demand for these advanced semiconductors.
Right.
And right now, no other country or company really has the capacity to fully replace China in that global supply chain.
Yeah, that's true. They're a major player.
Yeah, they are.
So let's play this out. What happens if those geopolitical tensions keep escalating?
Right.
And we get hit with even worse chip shortages than we've already seen?
Right. Well, in that kind of scenario, it really raises the question of whether some kind of compromise might be forced.
Interesting.
Some of the sources we've looked at have suggested that certain nations might actually feel compelled to negotiate solutions, to keep those chips flowing.
What could that look like?
Well, one possibility is that ASML could be pressured into some kind of licensing agreements with Chinese companies.
Right.
Or in a more extreme case, there might even be a tacit acceptance of Chinese-made EUV machines in certain markets.
Out of necessity.
Yeah, just out of sheer need for those advanced chips.
So it's this high-stakes game.
It is.
Where patents are a really powerful weapon right now.
Yeah.
But the world's just so hungry for these advanced technologies. And China's already demonstrated they have some serious technical capabilities.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder if this current situation can really last.
Yeah, I think it's a very dynamic situation.
So for everyone listening, the big takeaway here is that
Yeah.
while it might seem like China's just way behind in EUV,
Mm-hmm.
the reality is much more complex.
Yeah.
They've got a pretty strong foundation of technical knowledge.
They do?
The main roadblocks they face are this intricate web of international patents and the very real economic and political fallout
Mm-hmm.
if they try to ignore those patents.
Yeah.
But then you add in this ever-growing global demand for these chips,
Right.
it throws a whole other wrench into the works.
Totally.
So the real aha moment here is understanding that it's not just about a simple tech gap.
Right.
Intellectual property, geopolitics, global demand, they're all critical pieces of this really complicated puzzle.
They are.
Which leads to a final thought I want to leave you with.
Okay.
Given this insatiable appetite for advanced tech that the world has,
Yeah.
how do you think international patent law and these geopolitical realities are going to have to adapt
Yeah.
to accommodate these new technological powers that are emerging?
It's a great question.
What could the long-term implications be for global innovation and the stability of these supply chains that we all rely on?
That's something to think about.
Definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
It's been fascinating.
Yeah, it has.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.